Famed remote viewer Ingo Swann saw structures on the far side of the moon. Richard C. Hoagland, who will join us next hour, sees structures on the moon. John Lear, our special guest tonight, sees structures on the moon. We'll be back in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. Well, this is going to be one of those programs where even if I wasn't hosting this show, I'd be glued to the radio. John Lear is a retired airline captain, former CIA pilot, as well as the son of the very famous inventor of the Lear jet. He's a Lockheed L-1011 captain, highly regarded in aviation circles. He has flown more than 150 test aircraft. He has won every award granted by the Federal Aviation Administration, and he holds 18 world speed records. He's worked for 28 different aircraft corporations, and during the late 1980s and early 1990s, John began coming forward with startling revelations concerning the subject of aerial phenomena and unidentified flying objects. He's our special guest tonight on Coast to Coast. Hello, John. How are you?
Good evening, George. It's an honor to be on your show again, and I think you are the best radio show host, bar none.
Well,
I wanted to tell you I enjoyed our time together at the Bay Area UFO conference, and I'm sorry we didn't get to spend more time.
I got to tell you, it is a delight for me after so many years to interview guests like you, like Richard, and then when I meet you for the first time, it's really a treat for me. I mean, I never get over it. I'm still like a kid when I meet my very favorite baseball player when I was a little guy. It's the same kind of feeling, John, so it was great being with you, too.
That's great, and I want to thank or say hello to Bad Boy, the Nighthawk Zone, Spike Mike of Fantastic Forum, and my buddies at AboveTopSecret.com, which are Springer and Skeptic Overlord and Simon Gray, who have helped me put this program together, and my associates Ron Schmidt and in Las Vegas and Beth in Florida.
Great, and I want to remind everyone, John has sent us some pictures, which are up on the CoastToCoastAM.com website. We're going to make some reference to them throughout the night. Get up there when you get a moment and just start taking a look at them. You know, John, your credentials are absolutely incredible. And the fact that you have been able to investigate and talk about some of these fantastic things that are happening on this planet and in this universe just adds so much credibility to it. There aren't a lot of people like you who come forward that you stick your neck out and say, hey, look, this is what's going on. But I'm beginning to feel like people with credentials like yours are beginning to do that now. Am I right in that feeling?
Yeah, most of the guys that know what's going on are hampered by their security clearance. But tonight I'd like to talk about how the government has been mining on the moon for the past 40 years and how the public, Congress, and most everyone else have been kept out of the loop. How Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, Space Lab, the shuttle, and the International Space Station are all cover for what's really going on. As a matter of fact, we first started sending men to the moon in 1962. We were going to Mars in 1966 and have traveled throughout the solar system since then. And tonight I'm going to show you the photographs taken by NASA themselves that will show mining operations currently in operation. And these are not artifacts of ancient civilizations on the moon. This is going on here and now.
Why covert, John? Why not just announce to the public, hey, we're on the moon, we're mining, we're getting minerals, we're doing all these things?
Yeah, that's what I want the listeners to email Michael Griffin, who's head of NASA, and ask him, why is this a secret?
Yeah, so we really don't know what's going on, do we?
No.
John, let's go back just a little bit before we get into this. Tell me about your interest in the aerial phenomena, the unidentified flying objects, something obviously captured your imagination and your attention.
It was Bud Hopkins' book, Missing Time. I remember picking it up off the table at a friend of mine, Al Newell, here in Las Vegas, and I looked at that thing and I said, what's this? And I started reading it, and George, I'm telling you, the shivers went up my spine. I said, this is real. And one thing led to another. I eventually got to meet Bud in New York, and it was kind of funny because I was flying for American Transair, and I was so anxious to meet him that I had just come over from a flight from Paris. I had all my bags in my bag and my flight bag and my hang-up bag, and I went directly to Bud Hopkins' house, And I rang the doorbell, and when he answered it, he was in it, kind of looked shocked. He thought I was moving in, and all I did is, I had my stuff from the flight. And so anyway, we hit it off good, and he tried to do a regression. He said, look, you can't have this interest without having been involved, and nothing came of it. But that's what started it. Bud Hopkins' book, Missing Time.
You took a little hiatus for a while, and now you're coming back strong again.
Yeah, I had a little time there when I thought that maybe I shouldn't be talking about this, but fortunately that passed, and now I'm back.
All right. Well, do you still get calls from some of your friends and colleagues who have flown, and do they still pass information on to you?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the airline I left, which was not ATA, a couple of months ago, had a funny thing. The flight engineer called me. He said, "You're not going to believe this." He said, they were in a 747 headed towards Seattle from back east, and they were over Chicago. It was at night, late at night, and they're headed westbound, and center comes on and says, traffic 12 o'clock, 20 miles, 2,000 feet below you. And so they're looking out for this traffic below them, and here comes this huge white object, and it comes almost to within a mile of their craft, and then just instantaneously heads for the north and disappears in about 5 seconds. And they're all sitting there stunned, and the co-pilot finally says, "Now there's something you don't see every day." And, of course, they all burst out laughing.
Tell me a little bit about some of these photos that you gave us that we have posted on the website.
Okay, we have the photos starting with Apollo 8-12, 2209. It shows a picture of the Lemonsinoff crater, and what it shows is a city. And I'll tell you how I got into this. A few years ago, somebody sent me some pictures by Art Sweeney, who did drawings of stuff on the moon that he could see through a telescope. And that put me into a friend who called me, Bob Chirilla, in Chicago, and he said, "When you're in town, I want to show you something." And he showed me a book written by a guy named Charrington in Canada, who had a really good photograph of Lunar Orbiter 2-162, and that was an oblique photo of Copernicus. And he showed me some tanks, vertical, tanks, 4 huge ones standing up on the hillside, and that's posted in the pictures you got. That led me, about the same time, I saw Richard Hoagland's Moon-Mars connection about the 6-mile-high object in the middle of Sinus Medai.
Right.
And so I ordered some photos from NASA of these pictures of Copernicus. Here's the deal, George, and here's how it got so interesting. Now, when you order pictures from NASA, you don't order it from them. You order it from National Space Science Data Center, or one of the contractors. Somebody sent me, and I'll never know who it was, a 16 by 20 negative of 162H, Lunar Orbiter 2, oblique photo of Copernicus, which had not been airbrushed at all. Oh. And that stuff is, anybody can look at it. It's on AboveTopSecret.com. You can go to that website and see that thing. What happened is I had no way to print a 16 by 20 negative, so that thing sat in my garage for 2 or 3 years until the technology got to the point where I could go downtown and get somebody to print it. When I did, it was spectacularly clear. I took it over to Bob Lazar's, and it was so big that he had to make 4 different scans of it, and those are on AboveTopSecret.com. And we started looking at it, and it was just really interesting. Those photos sat around for maybe 2 or 3 years, and then finally I went to AboveTopSecret.com, and they wanted to put them on their forum, which they did. And it attracted so much interest. I think that one forum now, or that one thread, has got over 130,000 views now, and people started to contribute. Yeah, I see this, I see that, and we just amassed all these things that were going on Copernicus. It's obviously a mining operation. You can look at the photos that I gave to Lex that are posted on C2C. You can see cranes. You can